Hello, I'm Bryan Bornmueller, and I'm the designer of the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game. It's true, Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game is my first published game. Um, I'd spent a long time making a lot of different games. I have a shelf in my basement full of prototypes to prove it. But Fellowship's really the first one that I thought was good enough to publish all the way through. So Fellowship of the Ring is a cooperative trick-taking game. Um, so a trick-taking game is a really ancient classic kind of card game like Moose or Briska or Bridge or Tarot, popular all over the world. But a cooperative trick-taking game is one where players have to work together to win or lose as a group instead of competing with each other to see who can get the highest score. Um, and Fellowship of the Ring is different from other trick-taking games because I really wanted to imbue it with a strong sense of story and theme. So we do that with two ways. The way we use the sort of main deck of cards that you'll have in your hand, and then the characters that you're going to pick every round. So those main cards, the suits of the game, if you will, instead of being hearts or spades or diamonds or coins or clubs or batons or whatever you would have in a classic deck of cards. In Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game, they're hills and mountains and forests and shadows. And we even have a special suit, the ring suit. And of course, the one of the ring suit, the one ring, is the most powerful card in the game. And if you know trick-taking games, it's the only trump in the game at all, which is a big twist on a lot of trick-taking games. And so on top of just that main deck and the rules that come with that, every round you're going to be picking a chapter card that's going to tell you what characters you use and any other special rules that might be going on. And the characters, there's almost 50 of them in the game, are going to give you the goals that you need to do in order to finish the game, as well as let you trade with cards with the other players to give them information about your hand and help build their hands to be able to work together to accomplish all of your goals. It was super exciting to get to make a Lord of the Rings game. There are so many really wonderful Lord of the Rings games that have been published over many, many decades. And so as a studio, when we were first talking about what we could do with Lord of the Rings, I really wanted to try to come up with a super thematic trick-taking game that would fit into that. And what's funny is the game started out pretty close to where it ended, but originally it was just going to be a single standalone card game where you would pick a character from the Fellowship and see if you could work together and complete all of them, which is now essentially chapter 13 of Fellowship of the Ring. But when we showed that to people who weren't super familiar with trick-taking games, it was a little overwhelming. And so breaking the game up into chapters was our way to give an easier start and kind of ramp up to that more complex game that we ultimately got to. Once we had that initial structure of the main deck of cards representing the world and then the characters with their goals, the theme came together. The rest of the theme came together really, really easily. To me, the best themes in games help you learn the game and help you remind you how the game works. So, if you know Lord of the Rings, Pippin doesn't want to win a lot of tricks. He's often not doing very well in Fellowship of the Ring. Gimli, the dwarf, cares about mountains. Legolas, the elf, cares about forests. Hopefully these things make sense in sort of the context of the game and what you already know about the story. And working with such a rich story really inspired a lot of mechanics as well. So example, chapter 5, when the hobbits are going to the old forest and meet Tom Bombadil, we actually take the forest cards out of the main deck and they're working against you in the game because in the story, the trees are attacking the hobbits. So that's probably a mechanic I wouldn't have come up with if I didn't have the story to work as inspiration for the game. I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. My father read me the books when I was very young. I came back to them again when the movies were coming out, and especially when the classic Reiner Knizia cooperative Hobbit board game came out in the early 2000s. And then I, really got a deep love of the lore while I was working at Fantasy Flight Games and interacting with all of their really wonderful Lord of the Rings games that Fantasy Flight published in the mid 2000s. Absolutely, this game just covers the story of Fellowship of the Ring up to the breaking of the Fellowship, and so we're absolutely working on the next two parts of the story as well, and I'm really excited for people to check those out when they're ready. I'm very lucky because part of the advantage of going through just Fellowship of the Ring with this game is we get to cover all of the little details and little side characters that maybe don't normally get included in Lord of the Rings games. So I feel like I get to adapt basically everything that I love. I'm particularly proud of how we adapted the end of Fellowship of the Ring when they're in the boats going down the Anduin by the Argonath. But I won't spoil how exactly we do that. So absolutely one of my favorite games, and it's great that Asmodee publishes it, is Cosmic Encounter. And in terms of Lord of the Rings games, I really love what the team did on Duel for Middle-earth. I think that's an amazing adaptation of both the story and twist on Seven Wonders Duel. Thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it.